so much, Ashutosh, for doing this for me. Being like a boss, and you have been quite a boss in various industries. You've been with the hospitality industry, you've been leading that from the front, you've been at the aerospace domain, and then turned an entrepreneur. So how did pharmacy happen for you to become an entrepreneur?
So it's an interesting story. I worked for ITC for 17 years.
Yeah.
Then I moved into aerospace and head of Asia for 2 major companies. And then in 2003, the chairman of one of the major companies of the US said, time to move to America.
Okay.
And my wife and I had just moved back from Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Both our sons were going overseas to study.
Mm-hmm.
So I told them we're not going, and I quit.
Okay.
So in my first book, I actually start with that, saying on 1st April 2003, I woke up and I had no job.
The buck stops here, is it?
That was my first book.
Okay.
Yeah. I had no job, I had no appointments, I had no assistant, I had nowhere to go, nobody to meet me. And I said the first realization came to me that I had joined the ranks of the educated unemployed.
Okay.
And then I started to think what I wanted to do. So I used to own a small share in a hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And first we thought we'll build a chain of hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
Then I looked at the financials of the pharmacy and we said India doesn't have an organized pharmacy retail chain, which is how the whole concept of Guardian came into being, and built the first store, which was 350 square feet.
Right.
And 12, 13 years later, it was the second largest chain in India.
Super. But from a different field altogether, it's almost like reinventing your learnings from the hospitality industry, then to the aerospace, and then the pharma. It's not just about, I'm sure, about making money, but it's about learning yourself.
I think that is what I've always been very passionate about.
Learning.
About learning, doing different things, and I've always believed that the more you give to yourself, the more opportunities you get.
Right.
But the whole life to me is how much more can you learn? What are the new things you can do? And as long as you're giving your best to whatever you want to do, including the podcast and videocast series that I've started, where you've been a guest as well.
Right.
It's just, there's so much to learn, so much to do in the world.
So there's this whole buzzword about entrepreneurship in the country, in today's day, age and time. And a lot of it is, inculcated within schools and colleges as young as that. But you started out late in life as an entrepreneur. So what, according to you, would be the advantages of starting out a little later as an entrepreneur?
The biggest advantage that I see of starting at 46, which is after 25 years of work, is that I had learned a lot of best practices in 3 of the biggest companies in the world, which gave me a lot of understanding of how to build a business and how to build management teams, and I think that was most important.
Yeah.
The younger set of people, they have much more energy, great ideas, but I do believe a lot of startups flounder because they are not thinking through a business plan, they are not thinking through the logically what has to come one after another.
Super.
And most importantly, a lot of individuals do not think about completing what they have started.
Correct. And which brings me to the next question. There's a lot of talk about also now how entrepreneurs, while they're passionate and committed, they'll go to any extent to make their venture work, as opposed to a professional. Since you've been into the professional role as well, you will take a calculated risk and decision as to how you have to go about that. So in a way, there is a little negative connotation when it comes to entrepreneurship with the kind of environment that we are in, when we're seeing a lot of high-flying entrepreneurs, so to speak, really getting messed up.
So the answer to that is fairly simple. Majority of entrepreneurs work hard. They take loans. They pay back their loans.
Do they?
No,
Majority. Okay.
Majority of them. But then there is always a set of bad apples who are there to game the system.
Game the system.
They take money from banks. They used to. I mean, now I think those practices have stopped completely. But in the old days, it was very easy to use political influence to get loans, then figure out a way to manage the bank, then get the bank to write off the money.
And then flee.
And then, no, in those days you didn't need to flee. Now when people are getting caught, they're fleeing.
Okay.
In the old days, they would use that money to buy bigger and bigger houses. So I think it's my very, very strong view that if you have taken money from a bank or a public institution, which is really money that belongs to you and me, not in the sense that someone is going to write out a check and give you money from the bank,
right?
But these are all funds of governments which have supported these institutions. And if any entrepreneur misuses that money, takes 1,000 crores from a bank and then uses it to buy houses and buy fleets of cars and yachts and planes, and then is not able to repay that money, then I think they deserve to be put in jail. There's no question in my mind about it.
You've been very, Ashutosh, closely associated with the pharma industry, of course, thanks to Candid, that did very well for himself. I have a friend who's a scientist, and I remember a few years ago, she's in the Washington, DC, and she was visiting, and we were just having a candid conversation, and she said, Suparna, do you know, you think a cure for malaria is not possible? She says, I as a scientist work on creating pills against obesity in dogs because that's where my funding and monies come from, not from a third world nation that is suffering from malaria till date. What is your view of that?
This is always an ethical debate that goes on in every company, every pharmaceutical company's mind, that when I'm spending so much money on research, I should be able to recover that money from research because that's the only way I'll be able to keep reinvesting. And that is the big debate that keeps happening all over the world. After 30 years, the patent of a medicine goes out.
Correct.
In which case, anyone in the world can manufacture.
Right.
So therefore, the company that owns the patent for the first 30 years must have the ability to recover and make a profit in the first
30 years itself. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's free.
Right.
So there's no real right or wrong answer to this. Because if we bring in a practice that says nobody is going to bear the cost, there are lots of new diseases emerging all the time in this world. Who will fund tomorrow's diseases?
Right.
Nobody will have the money to fund it.
If you were to sum up your learnings as an entrepreneur, as a late starter, what would that be? Three learnings.
Well, number one, stick to what you started out with. A lot of entrepreneurs start something, it doesn't work, they pivot and they want to do something else. The second is when you start out, make sure that you have got reasonably large sums of money. You know, don't reach a situation where you've completely exhausted your money, because that is when a business comes to a halt. And third is surround yourself with people who either have complementary skills or people who are better than you. Only when you have good people will you be able to build businesses.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh.